Scholars Unbound is a bi-monthly podcast or video series that showcases the voices of scholars who know no boundaries when it comes to the pursuit of knowledge. You will hear insights from their experiences as international scholars and how these influence their research, hoping to inspire future scholars to be fearless, global, and unbound. I'm your host, Dalia Simangan. Hi everyone! Today I'm joined by Dr. Leticia dos Muchangos. Um, I met Leticia when she was a Japan Society for the Promotion of Science postdoctoral fellow at the United Nations University in Tokyo. During her postdoc, she was working on the development of gender responsive approaches to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And especially during that time, she was focusing on the area of education. Now, Leticia is assistant professor at Osaka University. Welcome, Leticia. Welcome to the show, and thank you for your time.
Okay, Dale, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. Yes. And I'm excited to be here.
So Leticia, like we started together almost the same time when we were postdocs at UNU, and then we also ended almost the same time, almost 2 years, or sorry, I left earlier. So I left earlier, and then a few months after that, you moved to Osaka University to start your current position. So tell us a little bit about your current position and your current research work, whether you've changed your research from what you were doing when you were a postdoc to what you're doing now.
When, like Dali introduced, I was a postdoc fellow at the UNU from GSPS. And at that time, I was looking at the connection between gender and waste education. But actually, my main expertise before that, or my training is on environmental engineering, and my focus was and is on municipal solid waste management. And the postdoc was quite different period of my research that actually was very enriching, but was not really my main expertise. So now that I'm an assistant professor, I went back to my original core theme that is looking at municipal solid waste management, especially in low and middle income contexts. So, and now I expanded my research to look at the risks associated with that. So health risks and environmental risks that municipal solid waste management brings up with. Yeah, so it's a change, but not a real change. Actually, the big change was during the postdoctoral fellowship.
I also want to mention, I just want to let our audience know that Leticia was the one who introduced me to the systematic review, so which was really helpful at the time. It was quite new to me, and I was so amazed by the research that she was doing, and then she spent a little bit of time teaching me how to do it, the basics of it, and I'm still using what I've learned from her for my current position as well. So I just want to mention that, and thank you, Leticia, for that.
Thank you for mentioning that. Actually, I end up discovering about that because exactly I was struggling with understanding this new theme of waste education and gender issues. So, and I did not want to step up and just say things out of just saying things. So the best way my engineering side found was to find the literature behind my new theme, and I needed to find a structural way to find out about that. So systematic review really helped me with that. So that was a good discovery for both of us.
Great technique, yes. So when did you arrive in Japan?
I arrived in Japan in 2013 as a mixed scholarship receiver. I came here for a PhD program, but before starting the program, I was granted 1 year of research studentship. So during 2013, I was a research student, and after that, for 3 years, I was a PhD student.
Sorry, why did you choose to do your PhD in Japan?
No, I see. Well, I think similar to your previous or one of your guests, it was a combination of many things, and I believe it was like a godsend, because I did my master's in China, and while I was finishing it, I was looking for PhD programs in China and also in Hong Kong. Okay, Hong Kong, China, but a little bit different. But at the same time, my partner was already here in Japan doing his master's, and it in my team, solid waste, Japan is very strong. It happens to be very strong. And one of the recommendations from my supervisor was to look at also PhD programs in Japan, because it would be interesting and it would really mean or make a lot more sense for me to look for countries like that. And it was a good combination of things, and I did not think twice, because the professional or the academic part was there, and then also my personal motivation was also a big thing. So it was a good combination. That's why I look for opportunities in Japan, and I applied for the Max scholarship.
Oh, that's great. And it's also great that you did your master somewhere else before coming to
Mm-hmm.
Japan. So you have this broader range of experience. So when it comes to being a scholar overseas, so can you tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced, being a scholar overseas? And
Mm-hmm.
it will also be fruitful to know, how did you overcome those challenges?
Mm-hmm. Challenges. Maybe first challenge is because I just mentioned I was receiving a scholarship. So you're you always have money, or you have funding at the back of your mind. So you don't want to mess up, and you also want to finish on time, because you can finish on time, but other things can happen in the middle. So you're always worried about being good. I don't know how can I say best. And but other than that, maybe the distance, because for other students, for example, it sometimes it feels like there are countries that no matter where you are, they are too far. Not only like physical distance, but even time difference. So you feel very removed from your origin. So it can be a little bit difficult. Um, other challenges, maybe um, understanding a little bit how the academic world operates in the country that you are. You have to find a way to understand how things are done, how things are not done, and if you want to, for example, continue in said country, you have to, for example, let's say Japan. So if you have to understand the inner workings of the academia, even as a student, like if I want to continue, or if you want to go to the business sector. So it can be difficult. And of course, language, because I did not study in either Portuguese speaking country, or English speaking country, like native. So understanding other languages and all the difficulties that come with that can be challenging.
Right. So you've mentioned about the dynamics of this academic environments. I'm wondering whether there were similarities or differences that you have observed in higher education between Mozambique and Japan, and also maybe you can compare with China if you have insights about that.
Unfortunately, this is one thing that I sometimes think, because I only did my undergrad in Mozambique, and I also did not do it in a public university. So the setup for private universities is a bit different than the public university. So I don't feel that I have enough knowledge about what happens in Mozambique, and also because I left long ago, I think many things changed, but I actually cannot pinpoint how they changed. But my vague understanding is that, for example, we did not, at least when I was there, we did not have culture of research groups. For example, you just have your supervisor, for example, for undergrad, and you have a one-on-one discussion or conversation, but you did not have a community of people to pull from, like a colleague from the same research group. You can happen to know the same person and like that is doing a thesis with your same supervisor, but you just know them. And if you want to have conversation about research, you can, but it's not the common way. So you don't have like a peer-to-peer and like a back and forth for discussion or research discussions. And also resources, like books, access to internet. This, it seems small, and we now have it like so easily. Like, I need this, I need that, and I need to this book, or I need this paper. You just send an email and ask for open access this, buying budget books, budget this. Like, those are not small things when you are on those countries like Mozambique. And yeah, I think so. And for Japan and China, I think China is doing a lot of what Japan does, or they both have always had the same culture. I don't know who started first, so I don't want to start any research war. So I was very comfortable changing the research environment between China and Japan. I don't know if it was just my faculty or my department, but it seems like they operate almost very similarly.
Perhaps not everyone who's listening to us or watching us are familiar is familiar with the strong lab culture in Japan. And I'm also quite learning a little bit about that here. And I'm wondering if you think there are advantages or disadvantages in having this strong lab culture in graduate programs.
I think they are more advantages than disadvantages, because being within a lab, you have access to senior knowledge, or like senior expertise, and then you also have like a peer-to-peer knowledge, or like many levels of maybe, let's say, seniority. So you can pull from the one that works best for you. And in my case specifically, I was very lucky because in my batch we had a lot of international PhD students. So during the research seminar sessions, we would have very lively discussions. So that was very important for me, and I really valued that. Yeah, so I don't think you would have those much opportunities to discuss if you are not part of a research group. Of course, I don't know. I did not have many opportunities to go abroad, for example, for conferences during my PhD. So I don't know how it would, like, how would I feel if I had the opportunities to discuss with other scholars outside of my lab. But what I see was the most valuable thing was because you have opportunities to discuss within a group, you will not make a fool of yourself outside, because people will tell you what it is. My colleagues were very upfront and they were rooting for me, but they were not letting me do whatever. That was important to have. And of course, your professors or your lecturers will always be there to guide everybody. So I value very much a research group culture or lab culture.
So it seems to me like there's a peer review even before you share your ideas and your research out in the world. So yeah, that's really good. Leticia's research interest is quite different from mine, and I find it really fascinating. And it would be great to know how you got into your research on solid waste management, focusing on municipalities in developing countries. And what have you found out so far that you think is worth sharing to our audience?
First, how I got into solid waste management, that was when I was looking for subjects for my undergrad thesis. As I said, in Mozambique, we don't have a research lab culture. So it's up to you to find your team and even up to you to approach prospective supervisors. So I was struggling very much with that. And in a random conversation with my father, he was talking about open dumps. And of course, as like a normal um, person, you know that open dumps are not good. But he was explaining in a way that it was very clear that they're really horrible. I don't have any other way to say. They're really, really, they have a negative impact all around for people, for the environment. And I was very interested from that conversation about that and studying more. But at that time, environmental issues were not really connected to my major, that was civil engineering. So it was a little bit of a shock that I chose that theme for my colleagues. Like, why are you doing this theme? But anyway, I just went along with it. And as when I was studying more or researching more, I found that there is a whole new world of studies regarding waste management, because as a normal Mozambican person, you just think, it's garbage, so it goes somewhere and it is just, it will disappear somewhere. But there is a whole world behind that. And the more I study, the more I find interest in studying and going deeper into the issues. And there was always the belief, but especially for low and middle income countries, the problem was money, or the problem was like technical or infrastructure. But actually, one of my findings was regarding how stakeholders behave, or how stakeholders understand each other. So if you have some stakeholders pulling from one side or pulling from the other, either because their interests do not match and their power relations also are very different, you have a system that will simply not work. And you will see cities that the citizens and the business and the generators are in one side of the spectrum, and then the donors and the policy makers are on the other side. So of course, money matters and infrastructure matters, but there are other social and even cultural issues that matters the most and can make a big difference in how successful your waste management system is. And in my postdoc, I got the chance to analyze gender, that I did not know it made a lot of difference, but it does make a difference if you do or you do not consider gender when you are designing your waste management system.
So, despite our different research interests, what's common between us is we both received full scholarships for our graduate studies, for our master's degree and doctoral degree. I just want to share that when I was still working back in the Philippines, before I did my master's, I used to spend my lunch hours trying to find scholarships in the internet, and I was really targeting Japan at the time. I really wanted to do my graduate program in Japan, specifically on something related to international relations. Also, the same thing I did for my PhD in Australia. I was also just, like browsing the internet and looking for available scholarships in Australia. And I'm wondering whether you did the same thing as well, or you already have some previous advice on where to find the scholarships and how to apply for them.
Almost similar. I always wanted to study abroad since high school. I think my generation and the generation before, there was maybe a movement for some people, at least the group I was around, to go and study abroad. But at the same time, you needed the funds. Some people had the funds to do it, but I did not have, like my family did not have those funds. So I looked for scholarships to do my undergrad program abroad. So when I was at the last year of high school, I was going back and forth. Like if I had classes in the morning and in the afternoon, I would go to places like embassies, because that was the common way. You go to embassies, you see the all the cultural centers of a country, and you see the announcements, you look through the newspapers. And we in Mozambique, we have now the Scholarship Institute that is managed by the Ministry of Education. So you would go there and see the announcements. If it's that the people who already know when you're okay, she's coming here again and asking for scholarships. So I applied for some I got into the interview phase, but I failed. So it was a bummer, but the thought at the back of my mind was still there, and also was a lesson because I knew what to look for next, and also I knew how to prepare myself best, like in terms of grades. At that time, I was lucky, and I went to China, and then the same happened to Japan. I remember my batch, all the applicants were men at the end when we went for the interview. And I was the only one applying for a PhD. So that was also a good advantage for me. Not like trying to say, okay, it was easy, but I understand that that was a big advantage comparing with my other, with my peers applying for the scholarship. So that was, mainly my motivation was always wanted to studying abroad and always wanted to secure funding, because it's a whole new game if you are self-funded. And I did not want to go through that for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Also, at the time, I was thinking that if I get a scholarship, it had to be full scholarship, because I don't want to. Although, of course, it will be a worthwhile experience, but I really wanted to focus on my research at the time. So that was my priority, really looking for a full scholarship, and turned out well for you as well. So congratulations on that. Thank you so much for this excellent insights that you've shared with us. I hope we can talk more about it. But just to close this interview, I'd like to know, and it would be great for our audience to know as well, what do you know now that you wish you had known before you started your PhD or during your PhD?
At the early stages, you're still getting used to it, so it's okay just to focus on your studies and to focus on your research. But at some point, you have to think about the future. What do you want to do? Where you want your degree to take you, or what do you want your future to be? So, for example, if in my case, I was in Japan and I did not think through exactly what I wanted to do next. And I only thought, okay, I want to maybe work here. But I think I started thinking about seriously later. And I found out that I did not prepare in terms of language ability, in terms of technical skills, like knowing some other valuable softwares like any in my area, or some more practical, or even preparing in other ways, understanding the Japanese market, either if it's industry or academia. So I think I got into the understanding train a little bit later than the ideal time. So I think there should be a time that you should think about your future and what you want to do, and then prepare for that. That's what I wish I would have known before. And also maybe trying to balance a little bit your life, because if you're too worried about, of course you have to worry about money and all, but you also have to enjoy. And Japan or wherever you are, there is always something good to explore, and you cannot be so blind or so focused on your research. Balance is very important.
Leticia is also one of the hosts of a podcast called Endless Possibilities. So please follow her podcast. I'm going to link it in the show notes. Thank you so much, Leticia, for spending your time with us. It was great seeing you again, virtually at least, and talking to you once again and just learning from your experience. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please consider leaving a comment or rating at iTunes or any of your preferred podcast hosting platforms. For details about upcoming episodes and how to support the Scholars Unbound project, visit daliasimangan.com/scholars unbound with the link in our show notes.